Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. I'm Steve Vandegraff. I'm going to be your host today. Thank you for joining us. You guys, I have some exciting news for you, an announcement right up front. From April 10th to midnight on April 13th, we will be having our Lifestyle Practice Coaching launch. For the last couple years, we've been taking new coaching clients on in an individual specific basis. But for the 3 days during the launch, we will be opening the doors to anybody ready to jump in and join TLP coaching. We're going to kick off the launch weekend with something awesome, a live webinar that will teach you how to take home $1 million in a year doing bread and butter dentistry in a regular PPO practice. Yes, that's possible. We'll be giving specific examples of how to increase production, again, scheduling examples, specific clinical cases, and financial numbers. The goal of this is to give you a look into what we cover in one-on-one coaching and how our clients consistently are able to grow their practices while working less days per year. After the webinar, there will be an open Q&A where you can ask any question you'd like, and this will be on Thursday, April 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, and that will kick off the launch and open the doors to a coaching opportunity that will run through the rest of the weekend. This is something you will not want to miss. We're pulling back the curtain and sharing some awesome content, and we're stoked to start with the next dentists who are ready to take their practice to the next level. So look forward to talking with you next Thursday. Now, jumping into today's podcast, you guys, I want to share with you one for sure way to be absolutely miserable. And of course, how to avoid this. What is it? A reliable way to feel miserable is to live your life worrying about what other people think of you. Seeking to please other people, trying to impress other people, trying to not let anybody down. If our actions throughout each day are made to meet the expectations of other people, there will not be time for the things that matter most to you. If your thoughts are filled each day wondering or worrying about what somebody else's opinion of you may be, you will never have peace of mind. Research and just really common sense are clear on this. Self-esteem based on external validation, it leads to emotional instability. That means you're fragile. Happiness and resilience, on the other hand, come from being authentic and doing what you believe is right, not pandering to outside approval. And I understand this is tough because it's really easy for us to be a people pleaser. I mean, dentists listening to this at work, you're with several employees all day. You see a couple dozen patients every day, and all of those people want something from you. Some of them are hard to deal with. And then, after work, you're still pulled in a lot of directions. There's so many people to deal with. Inside of us, we have this little ego deep down that wants to impress others. We want to fit in and feel important. Even without all the daily demands of dealing with people, this internal stress distracts from our wellness. So I want to give you a couple ways to combat this problem of living for other people. Number one, narrow your focus to what is most important to you. I'm not a huge NFL fan, but I watched the Super Bowl last month and saw the Eagles win. Jalen Hurts' story was my favorite part of it all. So his story, a few years ago, he was the #1 quarterback at the best college in the nation, but he was benched in the championship game for the backup quarterback, which must have been just humiliating, and he actually had to transfer to another school. Later, after college, he was drafted into the NFL, and despite facing a lot of criticism, he actually made it to the Super Bowl in 2022, but he lost. So again, another big defeat. But I love how Hurts carries himself. He's not flashy at all. He's very methodical. He pauses and thinks before he speaks. He doesn't ever use a lot of words. But after he lost the Super Bowl, a reporter was getting on to him, and he asked a critical question. Hurts, he stood up, and I love this. He said, just briefly and quickly, "I had a purpose before you had an opinion." And then he walked off. All the criticism, everything people were saying about him was irrelevant. For him, the only thing that mattered was his purpose, which was completely internal. I had a purpose before you had an opinion. And we know the story now. He kept his focus, and after 2 years, he actually went back to the Super Bowl and he won it. If we are locked in on our goals, then we don't have time to worry about what other people's opinions are or what's going on in the periphery. Number two, understand that problems or people's opinions cannot harm you. Only your thoughts about them can harm you. My family and I, we spent a month last year in Italy, and it was a blast seeing different parts of the country, The food, the architecture, I love the history, but my favorite part was reading while we were there Stoic writings, the philosophy of the ancient Romans, and then visiting the places of the men that wrote each of those books. And I'll just tell you, I mean, thousands of years ago, it was the Romans that had things figured out. In Marcus Aurelius's meditation, he says, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. So people can't harm you, only your interpretation of the situation can cause you suffering. He also said, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. There's a really cool story of Aurelius, so I'm talking about the philosopher king. He said, the story goes he was walking down Rome with, his royal procession, and there was a heckler on the street, on the side of the street, that started screaming insults at him as he passed by. Now, in America today, I think it's very common to have protesters screaming, curses at the president. But, back in ancient Rome, other Caesars would not hesitate to put somebody up on a cross for the slightest insult or challenge. But that's not what Aurelius did. He actually stopped the procession and he looked over at the man, insulting him and screaming at him and telling him what a terrible leader and king he was. And then he wrote later that he thought, if what this man says is true, then I should change. If what he says is not true, then it has no power over me. So he gave the man a small smile without saying a word and then went back on his way. And I just love that story. Separate yourself from the insult. Analyze it without emotion. Consider maybe you need to change, but don't let something outside of you affect you in the slightest. Aurelius said, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They're like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but of the same mind and possessing a share of the divine. So number 3, embrace the fact that you're not going to please everyone. I heard a lady once say, you can be the juiciest peach on the tree, but even then, some people just don't like fruit. And that's true. You could be perfect, and that's just not going to be enough for some people. So just accept it. This can be really uncomfortable at first, but after you really do it, it is empowering when you get good at it. If you catch yourself feeling frustrated or stressed about something that someone said, or if you catch yourself explaining yourself with a lot of words to someone, these are cues that you just need to own where you're at and let someone else feel or think whatever they may. Bring this back into dentistry, I got a text a couple weeks ago from a client. It was a screenshot from an email that he received from a patient who was complaining that the doctor wasn't available on Thursdays or Fridays. And if this doesn't change, she will be forced to find a new office. And he wrote in the text below her email image, well, too bad. And that is the mentality you have to have if you're going to create a lifestyle practice. If you want to chase after what you want for you and your family, then you have to stop worrying about what other people think you should be doing. That is what confidence feels like. What does this look like in the office? You don't hesitate to tell patients everything they need. You're not afraid of offending them. You're not afraid of talking about, larger dollar amounts with them. You're just honest and you tell them exactly what they need. You gently hold your ground when a patient tries to get you to do something that is not up to your standard. We've all been down that road. You can say no. You have no problem going up to an underperforming employee and correcting them right then and there. It's no longer stressful for you because you don't worry about other people's opinion of you. Outside of work, just in life, you are comfortable declining an invitation if you have something else going on, or if you would rather do something else. You're able to speak your mind and just be honest with people, even if it may be a little uncomfortable. You don't have to impress other people. This is so important. You can be happy for people who are more successful than you and just seek to learn from them rather than trying to put on some appearance to impress somebody. You feel mentally calm because you can focus on the things that are most important to you rather than replaying conversations or worrying how something may have come across. So don't sacrifice your mindfulness by worrying if you are meeting somebody else's expectation of what they think you should be doing. For me personally, I had some people come up to me while I was in dental school and tell me it would be a big mistake to buy a practice right out of school. But I wasn't comfortable with the customary path. After I did so, I was questioned on moving all the way across the country and buying a practice in the location that I did. But it fit with my research and what I wanted to do with my goals. Last year, when I decided it was time to pursue some other dreams outside of dentistry, I decided to sell my practice. My financial advisor called me crazy. He said I was stupid to sell this asset while I was in my 30s. But again, I didn't want to take a traditional path or live a life that other people expected me to do because that's what everyone else does. So to boil this all down, don't live somebody else's life. Live your own. Once you stop worrying about other people's opinion, you can focus on the things that are most important to you. You can do what you believe is right, and you'll be better off for it. One last reminder, join us next Thursday evening for our free webinar as we kick off our one-on-one coaching launch. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. And with that, everybody, I hope you have a great week.